We're going to go ahead and start talking about the actual lesson and going through it. Before we do that, we want to go ahead and point out that we will be looking at monthly surface, all sky, shortwave, downward flux data. And this is data that's collected by the Ceres instrument. And if you notice down in the image, there are two different satellites that are circled. That's the Terra and the Aqua satellite. One of the satellites will go over a certain area in the morning and the other will go in the evening. So we get all of the Ceres data from these two different satellites. Real quick, we want to point out that in this same diagram that Susan showed you, we have a little bit different labeling here. We have monthly surface, all sky, shortwave, downward flux. When working inside of the LAS, this is what the parameter will be known as. So make sure that this is what you're looking for. When you get into the Live Access Server, or LAS, as you'll see it on our website, you'll notice real quick that this is where the Live Access Server is and what it looks like. And real quick, we're going to go ahead and zoom in. If you notice right here, we have atmosphere, biosphere, cryosphere, land surface, and oceans. These are the main categories that you can look at. Today we're going to be looking most specifically at atmosphere. Now in the LAS, all you have to do is specifically just click on it. We're going to go ahead and do that now. Once you click on it, you'll be taken to the next page. Real quick, I want to point your attention up here to this top bar. Up here, you have data sets and atmosphere, and as you progress in the LAS, you'll add more and more images. So this will remind you where you are in the Live Access Server when navigating. Here, we're going to go back to the list of choices. All of these could be contained in other lessons. However, today we're going to be looking at atmospheric radiation as circled here. What you have to do here is you click on atmospheric radiation and it takes you to yet another one. In this particular one, we want to look directly at the surface of the Earth and the radiation hitting it. So we're going to go ahead and click it real quick and we'll be taken to this list. In this particular lesson, since there are so many choices here, we want to make sure that we select the correct one. And in this particular lesson, we're going to be looking at monthly surface, all sky, shortwave, downward flux, or SRB, that's surface radiation budget data. If for some reason someone in your class were to click on one of these and go through the lesson, the graph they produce will be different, and that would probably be one of the main reasons that there's difficulty in the lesson. So let's go ahead and click on this and go to the next screen. Here we see the lesson steps. Right here, one thing I want to go ahead and direct your attention to is this particular section here at the top of the page. This right here is where you enter in or select data for what your plot's going to look like. In this particular lesson, we want to choose a time series graph and also an overlay plot. And full region, we don't really need to worry about that because we're going to be very specific with this lesson in just a second. Next thing we want to look at is variable 1 and variable 2. Over here, this is where we'll be entering in all the different locations or latitude and longitudes for the lesson. The very first one, you want to click on variable 1, and then in the lesson page or in the lesson handout, you should have been given the coordinates that you want to enter in. In this particular case, it's 44 north and 108 west. Once you enter those in, then the next thing you want to do is click on Go. After you click on Go, it'll select where in the United States that it's supposed to be. The next thing you want to do is click on variable 2. Once you click on variable 2, you want to make sure you find your location, and in this particular lesson, you're given the option of choosing somewhere in Alaska. So what you do is you just look over here and say, okay, well I want this region in Alaska, and click on it. After clicking on it, if you'll notice real quick that the latitude and longitude will automatically be inputted in over there for you. So you don't have to worry about getting it exactly correct. The last thing that you want to do is make sure that you click on, it doesn't show it here, but make sure you click on variable 1, and the last thing we want to do is change the date. In the lesson, it suggests that you choose a 10-year time frame. In this particular lesson, their time range is between 1983 and 2007. So as long as you choose a 10-year time period within there, you'll be just fine and be able to answer all the questions at the end of the lesson. Real quick, going through, this is what the graph will be when you click next at the end of the lesson. Real quick, just want to draw your attention to the fact that there are two different lines on here. In this particular one of the lines will represent Sheridan, Wyoming, and the other will represent your place in Alaska. And real quick, it should be fairly easy to see that they're fairly in sync with each other. Later on, you'll probably need to look at it more closely, but it's worth noting that the lines are in fact in sync with each other, even though they're in drastically different places in the United States. Real quick, we want to show you how we chose or found the exact location of Sheridan, Wyoming. In this particular instance, we use Google Earth. So we go to Google Earth and simply just type in Sheridan, Wyoming, and it shows the exact latitude and longitude. You could also search by address if you wanted to find the exact address of your school, if you want to be that specific, or you can just look at an atlas and choose from a long list of other things. In this next slide, we want to go ahead and show a short student video, and that way you can see how some of the students chose the locations throughout the United States.
So we're in My NASA Data. I see that you're looking at the live access server, and we're going to be looking at energy from the sun. See the hyperlink there?
Okay. All right. So,
Abby, how's it
what are
coming?
the couple places that you would think would be greatest to live in? Like, not just because of you want to live there, but because you think they're also sunny. Like,
Well, I have to say Las Vegas, Nevada.
see, all right, that'd be nice. Another thing I was thinking is like location-wise, because I think since we can have up to 4 places, we should pick a place, on each corner of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single time we click next.
West. That's exported.
So you don't think we really need to tour around New York at all or nothing like that?
Yeah.
There's enough tours already.
All right. I like it.
Oh, we're still in.
You made it to the home page.
Right, great start.
Where was
I'll check back on you in a few minutes. So Myrtle Beach is going to be one of the places that you're thinking about living. Okay. Great. One of the things that I'm going to want to know is if there any place that you can only be certain times of the year that you'd like to go to. So keep an eye out for that. I'll check on this
You
shortly.
really can live,
Here.
Because with the view, you put time series, and then the output, there is no overlay. You could change the region to North America. So sure,
Well, I'll be interested in finding out which months for each one of those locations that you'll have the energy that you
summer months.
Get more information. Have we looked at the map at the time?
Great.
Okay, in that video you saw a few students in the classroom going through the lesson, and you could hear how they chose the locations that they were looking at. Real quick, we want to go back over what we learned today in this particular module. The very first thing is how to access data on the live access server. That was where we actually clicked through and produced the graph. Next, we want to look at how to use the LAS to generate an overlay plot. That was the plot that we looked at, and the main one that you'll look at in the example 1 of this lesson. Next, we learned how to interpret the generated plots. After you generate the plots, you're going to have to look at the different plots to answer the questions. And lastly, how to find a location in the United States.